Hey everybody, Mike Pfeiffer with Pfeiffer Hobby Supply. Today I'm just going to do a how to connect up a PR3 and connect it to JMRI software and the basics on how to get started. I'm definitely no expert at JMRI. I can't go into depth about anything, but I have had some guys ask me, how do I even get started with JMRI software? What do I need? What do I connect up? What do I do to make a freestanding programming track? So we're going to get into that today, and I hope you enjoy it. And don't forget to take a look at the FHS or the Mike Pfeiffer channel for all the updates on the ACT. Okay everybody, this is how I set it up. I just set it up out of junk stuff I had, so therefore I have a crummy old monitor just sitting on the little table I have here. I have a piece of Kato Unitrack with some joiners on the end of it that go around the back side of that monitor, and you can see them right there connected to the output of the PR3, and now it's called a PR4, and we'll get into that in a minute. But you see how the test track attaches to it, just comes around into the test track. I have a wireless or wired keyboard in this instance. You could use a laptop for this. You could use any kind of computer you wanted, or an iPad, whatever. I have this great big giant antique dinosaur down here for a computer. The computer does not have to be anything fancy. You just have to be able to access the internet. I think that one of the most important parts is to have a cat mouse pad. I have a wireless mouse, and of course the PR3, and you have to be obviously close to some kind of an electric plug. I have the PR3 connected in here. The PR3 is the programmer that allows you to connect to the computer. I have it plugged in here through the PS14. Now the PS14 and the PR4 are all in the same package. When I bought this, I had to buy the power supply separately. I also have the cord that goes to the computer plugged in there, and I have the cord that goes to the monitor plugged in there, and this other cord doesn't mean anything. It goes over to a power strip. But nevertheless, there are basically 3 plugs here to get my equipment plugged in. Now, let me turn the camera sideways, make you guys really dizzy for a minute. This is a Digitrax PR3. Like I say, it's been replaced with the PR4 and now includes the power supply. It also includes a cable, a USB cable to get from here to the computer. So what you see here is you see the power supply plugged into the top. You see the computer cable plugged in there, goes around and all over the place and around and over into the computer itself. And of course I showed you the 2 wires that connect right there that say programming track. Pretty simple. Computer cord, programming track, power supply. There is really no need for any kind of programming or anything to be done with these buttons here in most cases. So you can actually plug it in and it's good to go. It's kind of a plug and play and you're off and running. That connects you to the computer. Now on this computer, and I don't have a lot of stuff on this computer, it's extremely slow, but here is my icon on the computer for JMRI software. And it is JMRI. I will try and put a link to JMRI's download page in the description. Now what I think I'll do is I'll open up JMRI and just kind of go over what it allows you to do once you get set up with what you see here. And like I say, we're going to go over it again. Basically a computer that you can use, any kind, the PR3, and some kind of monitor. And if the monitor is built into the laptop or whatever, then you're 2 steps ahead. So let's go into JMRI and see what it will allow you to do. Okay, I have noticed on some different computers different screens open up first, but in general this is likely the screen that's going to open up first. And you can see that it's equipped with file, edit, settings, actions, LocoNet. You may have to go in and set up LocoNet. I will go there and show you the LocoNet page. But aside from that, once you get set up, I will show you some things you can do. But all I do is go into New Loco if I'm going to program something. But let me show you the LocoNet and setup settings possibly. Okay, I can't find the screen. Apparently now that I have it set up, it bypasses the screen where it allows me to go in and set up what you want the computer to talk to or the JMRI software to talk to. It's relatively easy, and I'll just explain it to you real quick. There's a little screen that comes up, and all it asks you is what is the device, and it gives you a choice of a PR3. You click PR3, and then you click LocoNet, and then if it asks you, you have to know what port you're using on the computer. Sometimes it automatically recognizes that. Some older computers, like the thing I have, it will not do that. But that stuff is pretty self-explanatory when you plug it in, and if you have a problem, you're more than welcome to call me with that, and maybe I can walk you through it or something. I'm not a computer expert by any means, or JMRI expert by any means. But here's the opening screen we've already seen, okay? Over on the right-hand side, there's a bar, and it says, it gives you a choice of paged, direct byte, register, and address. I have no idea what that stuff means. I'm always in paged mode. There again, I'm sorry I can't explain that to you, but when you get set up, this is basically the screen you'll see. And let me close this over here on this side. And it's pretty self-explanatory. It says getting started, and it tells you to click New Locomotive. Then it tells you to select the decoder if you know it, and then it brings you to the screens where you can do something. So let's just do what it says, okay? I'm going up here, and I'm clicking New Locomotive. Now you can see that clicking New Locomotive brings up all kinds of decoder manufacturers. Just about everybody's on here. Now this works if you know what decoder is in the locomotive. So if you've done an install and you know it's a Digitrax decoder, all you have to do is go up here to Digitrax, click on Digitrax. Then you kind of have to know what series it is. If you can't figure out what series it is, just take the little plus button here and open up that file and see if your decoder you installed is listed there. Okay? If it's not, then go to something else. We'll open up the other one here. Now you can see that most of the decoders are here. Okay, but somewhere in these files you will find probably your decoder number. If it happens to be sound, it'll be an SFX sound decoder. And all the decoders have these boxes that you can open. You can see even that it has early decoders way back. It even has DS54s, which is a stationary decoder, and it tells you it's a stationary decoder but can be programmed in the usual way, which means on the layout when you have it connected to the layout. There's a lot of old decoders in here that you're probably never going to open the file for. But the idea of this is that no matter what decoder manufacturer you select, it'll show you all the current. As long as this thing keeps updating all the time, you'd update it once in a while. It'll auto-update if you leave it on. But it gives you all the current decoders. Here's Broadway Limited, okay? Diesel, Steam, and Paragon 2, Blue Line. Diesel and Steam, a light unit. Paragon 3 is going to have several, okay? Rolling Thunder, Steam. Anyway, and apparently all of the Paragon decoders, whether it be diesel or steam, are programmed in the same fashion. And in reality, in the Digitrax, these are as well. The only reason it would make a difference which one of these you're selecting is if you have to go back and do a reset of a decoder, it will allow you to put all the correct information back in. And I think the same thing applies with all of these. But let me just click on a decoder here and we'll take a look at what we get. Okay, what I have forgotten to mention is that if you don't know what the decoder is, there's a button right down here that says read type from decoder, okay? And on my test track, I have a Kato E8 or 9, whatever that happens to be. And I'm pretty sure it has a Digitrax decoder in it, but I don't remember. I honestly, on this video, do not remember. So we're gonna read, okay? You can see it's working over here. It's looking at the CVs. If the red light is blinking, the PR4 or the PR3 is still working. When that light stops, and it will stop, it's still reading, and it's saying that it's finding multiple decoders, okay? It was trying to discern which one of those decoders it is. Now you can see that it's gone back to just a slow blink. Okay, so it's telling me, what it's telling me now is that it can be any one of these Series 3 decoders, anything highlighted in blue. And it can be the Evo GE Diesel sound decoder, okay? So it doesn't know exactly which version it is, and I'll tell you why that happened on this particular locomotive, because this locomotive has had a decoder in it for about 10 years. I don't remember which one it is. So it's saying that we can program using any one of these. So, but we're going to select a Kato decoder, which is denoted by a K on a Digitrax decoder. I don't know which one it is. I know it's not a C. It doesn't matter, okay? We're just going to pick one. So we're going to pick K1D. Maybe. Like I say, my computer is extremely old and extremely slow. Okay, so where we're at now is we're at a main screen that always comes up and asks you if you want to create a roster. In other words, a roster of the locomotives you have. If you do, you can type any of that pertinent information into here and save to roster. So that, and I don't have a roster, unfortunately. I'm too lazy to go through all my locomotives and put them in a roster. But if you wanted to save them, you obviously can put road name, road number, manufacturer, owner, which would obviously be someone else that would ever get it. I'm just kidding. The model, you know, you see it all there. Throttle speed set at 100%. You could adjust that down. So if you didn't want it to run 900 miles an hour, you could set that to 50%. But that's, you have choices here. And let me reiterate, or not reiterate, but let me say, and I'll probably reiterate later, you can't screw up a decoder by having it on here. And I will show you why in a moment, okay? So there's no information on here right now, even though we've searched that decoder for that locomotive. Another thing I'm going to point out here is you have buttons at the bottom. It says read changes to all sheets, write on all sheets, read all sheets, write all sheets, okay? This programming mode, we're in direct byte for programming. I don't know, I've never touched it, so I don't ever change it. We can see what choices we have. There again, we have page, direct byte, register, and address. I have no idea what those means. I'm sure you can look them up on the internet. But anyway, I'm just pointing out that we have some buttons down here. This is basically our opening page. So now we want to start the programming process, okay? So let's go just to basic so we can see what the basic things are that we're able to do. The first basic thing is we're able to set a short, a long address, set that address, primary address is will probably stay at 3. I don't remember whether it stays at 3. An extended address, I have no idea what the extended address means. It just tells you right here whether you're in long or short. And here's an important key that a lot of us need sometimes, because sometimes when you put a decoder in a Jeep or something, and depending on the railroad, they ran them short or long hood forward, you may want the normal direction of travel to be reversed instead of forward. Okay? Those are the two choices you have there, forward and reverse. So if you want it to run long hood forward, generally you would have to reverse the decoder. Not all the time, but you just have to determine which way you want it to run. It's asking you for 128 or 128 speed steps, and that's the recommended setting. I never change that. I don't know why anybody would want 14 speed steps. And then analog conversion. This is telling me that this decoder has analog conversion, meaning that you can run this decoder on analog is turned on. There's a big discussion as to whether or not we need to leave that on. I don't ever turn it off, but people say that if you turn it off, that the decoder function can be smoother. I don't know, I think we're beyond the point where people want to run decoder-equipped locomotives on DC and vice versa. A lot of manufacturers are dropping that from their decoders altogether. Okay, but at this point, without going on and on and on, at this point, what we can do is now we have more buttons down here. Read changes on sheet, write changes on sheet, read full sheet. That's important. Remember, read full sheet. Write full sheet, which we usually do not have to use. Read changes on all sheets. We don't want to do that. It takes a half hour on some decoders. Write changes on all sheets. We don't want to do that either because, well, normally we don't want to do that because we're working on one page at a time. So I prefer not to use that button. Read all sheets. We don't want to do that because it's just going to go through and tell us what's on every page, and we don't necessarily always want to know that, and it's very time consuming. There might be cases you might want to, but in our case we're going to do one page at a time here, so we don't care. Write all sheets. I've never known that to be handy for anything. Okay, but what we're going to do here is we're dealing with the basic sheet. So what we're going to do is we're going to read this full sheet. So I'm going to click the button. You can see that it highlights the button. You can see that the PR3 is thinking, and you might be able to see the locomotive lights flashing, which is saying that it's trying to read information from the locomotive. Those are all good indications to look for. Now if I go back over here, you can see that the red light is now done and completed its function of looking at the decoder for what's on this particular sheet of information. The locomotive has also stopped blinking. The only reason to look at the locomotive and see if the light is blinking is to make sure that your wheels are making good contact with your programming track. Very important key. Keep your programming track clean, and if you're going to program a locomotive, make sure its wheels are clean. If not, the computer will say down in this corner right here that it cannot communicate, maybe in the middle. I don't know, somewhere on the bottom of the screen here it says that it's unable to communicate with the decoder. If you get that, something's wrong. The decoder's installed incorrectly, you're not getting contact to the programming track, or something of that nature. But there will be some other thing wrong. Okay, we're going to back up. The locomotive number sitting on this track is number 82, and you'll notice that I have left it on short address simply because it's 82. There was no reason to change it to long address. The primary address is 82 and the extended address is 82, and I'm on short 1 byte address. My normal direction of travel is forward because we know that the round hood on the front of an E unit is the front. Okay, my analog conversion is on, which I don't care about. And then there's user ID, manufacturer ID, and version ID. They're not important to us, but they may be important to you at some time. If you had to call service, they might ask you. They may or may not, I don't know. Ask you, we know that 129 obviously is some kind of assigned number to Digitrax because I know this is a Digitrax decoder. and we know that from searching it. Version ID 49, have no idea. They could have 500 versions. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me, okay? All that matters to me is this over here. And if I wanted to change this address to a long address, say it came as 3, all we would do is hit long address, put whatever long address we wanted. We're going to say we're going to make it 9682. Okay, say my number was 96 at the club, so I had to make it 9682 instead of 82. Okay, you see that it's in here. The primary address was 82. Nothing else has changed here. And now what you want to do is you want to go down here and write the full sheet, okay? Which is going to basically write all the information that you have changed on this sheet. And I'm going to back up here and allow you to see what happens when I click this button down here. Whenever it's flashing red like that on the screen, it's going through those to make sure that they are being programmed. You saw the light go off on the PR3, which meant it was done writing that information to this decoder. And now, I'm not going to take it out there, but now I know that this locomotive is programmed to 9682 instead of 82. And because I don't want it 9682, I'm going to change it back. And I'm going to show you how simple it is. Now I'm going to go to short address. I wanted it to be 82. The short address is 82. Extended address, which is long address, is 9682. But we don't want that. So I don't know whether it makes a difference, but I'm taking it out of there. We're going to delete that. Now I'm going to, once again, write full sheet. Boom. You can see that it's rewriting what we just told it. The PR3 is working. The light is now off. It's done working. And always remember to wait until that light goes off, because so many people will pull the locomotive off when the screen on the computer gets done, but the PR3 is not done talking to the decoder. Always allow that to go back to a slow flash, okay? Always. Or you won't get the whole programming into the chip. So, now, what I'm going to do is I know it programmed, but to make sure it programmed, I'm going back to read full sheet again. Boom. The PR3 is working. It's not giving any kind of red information here, simply because there's nothing being changed, okay? The PR3 is now back to slow red, which means it's done its job. And it is now confirming that I am on 82 on the short address. Okay, so that's the basic things that most of us really want to do when we start out doing this. And as you get more comfortable using the JMRI software, that's the basic, and that's what most of us do. Then you can start moving to these other tabs up here. Motor, for instance. We'll go over that here real quick. Okay, so we're on the motor tab, and you see here that we have the option of kickstart, accelerate rate, deceleration rate, motor drive frequency. I have no idea why you would change that, and I wouldn't change it unless I was smart enough to change it. 128, I don't know what that means. Static compensation for speed stabilization. I have no idea what that crap is, so I would leave it, me being the beginner, like I'm assuming that you are if you're looking at this video, would leave that alone. The kickstart, if you had a locomotive that didn't like to start running until it was maybe at, I don't know, 7, 8 volts or 4 volts or whatever, you might want to bump up the kickstart to like 10 and then try it. The acceleration rate and the deceleration rate is the amount of rate of pause that you can put in it, or the rate at which it accelerates. Well, it's the rate at which it accelerates or decelerates. It's exactly what it says. If you choose to play with that stuff right there, it's not a problem. Go in and change it and see how it affects the locomotive. Simulating possibly the weight of the train, or how fast you want it to speed up, when you want it to take off, when you want it to decelerate. And those are very simple things to do. And you can obviously see they're at 0, so if you screw them up, go back to this page, change them all back to 0, and put it back where it was. Or I will show you how to reset a decoder in the JMRI software. It's very simple, but we're going to move forward now to basic speed control. Okay, this is basic speed control. This is what people try and set on their layout when they're trying to program on their layout, program on the main, the start volts, the mid volts, and the max volts, which allows the voltage to regulate the way the train acts when it speeds up, how it runs at mid-range, and what it runs at maximum voltage. Here again, this is another thing that you can mess with. It's one of the things that most people do mess with it at some point. I do not. I just prefer to do everything very simply, so I don't get hung up on making sure the locomotives run perfectly with each other. So anyway, I don't mess with this. You can, but I just wanted you to see what's on the screen for basic speed control. Now we're going to look at speed table. Okay, this is speed table. I don't normally mess with this much either. It's presuming that you have a straight line of acceleration across these CVs when you buy a locomotive. It may not necessarily be true. If we want to know, remember our good old read full sheet button? Let's just try that. It takes a little while here, okay? You can see the yellow bars going away as it's checking each one of those speed levels, and you can see that that graph or that bar is moving up slightly on this particular decoder. Not much, but just ever so slightly. I reiterate, I'm going to go back over here and show you that the PR3 is working. We know that because we're seeing progress on the screen. Decoders are normally set with a straight line, straight wave line here through these CVs. Now, if the locomotive went too fast at the top end of this range, okay, and you didn't want it to, you can go in here and tell it to use the speed table, and you can start dragging these down, okay? And you could change that. Now, you can match ends, okay? If I match ends, it went down here, but it went down across the whole scale. And I'm not familiar with how all of this actually works. I know that it does work. I have done it on some locomotives for customers. I don't like to do it because I don't like to do it. But nevertheless, there's buttons here to do anything. We hit match ends, and it matched ends to what was down here. If I put this one up at the end and I match ends, it rises the whole slope. Okay? You can, if I had, say I made a change here, and I didn't like that change, I can go to force straight, and it puts everything back in a straight line. Match ends does the same thing once you get it to the point where everything's already matched. A constant ratio curve angles the curve, slopes the curve. I usually find this to be too drastic, okay? But it does give you a way to move all the buttons at once and then work from there. A log curve is the opposite. Starts you out with more voltage and then just slowly increases the voltage to get to the top. I've never found either one of these curves to be good right out of the box. It requires some moving of all of these. This gets into speed control and speed matching and stuff, and this is not something that I'm interested in, something that I do. I'm just showing you what you can do here. Shift left, shift right. You can keep hitting shift right, and you can change that curve. You can see that it flattens out one end. You can shift the other direction. Anyway, it allows you to adjust the curve, and you can adjust them one at a time. When I say one at a time, I'm adjusting that one down, but I'd have to adjust this one back up, and this one back up, and this one back up. You see what I mean? You can move them wherever you want. Okay, I don't want to be too boring here. It's something that I just don't know much about. Forward trim 128, reverse trim 128. Have no idea what forward and reverse trim is. I don't care. But it's there if you decide to delve into this and learn how to set these speed tables. I don't know much about it, so there's no sense in me trying to tell you about it. Now we're going to go to function map up here. Function map allows you to change pad buttons to make those functions do something different. And normally I don't want to do that either, because everything comes programmed with the keypad function in a certain place. I can't see any reason to change it, but you can if you decided that there's ones that you use all the time. You may want them in position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or something, and you can change that here. That's a brief description of this. I don't touch this just because I don't need to. Now we're going to go to the lights. Okay, here's when we click on lights, here's what we get. The lamp keep alive voltage is set at 0, fixed rate FX rate rather adjustment. That's if you have ditch lights or something that are separate from your headlight. You can adjust. I don't know if it's adjust the rate at which they flash. I don't know if it's the brightness. I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, you can adjust it there. I guess it would be flash rate because it says fast, slow, and anyway. And ditch light hold time, I guess that's after you push the function button, how long they stay on. You've got all this stuff here. I'll let you read it when you get into JMRI. It just allows you to change the effects that you want from the light functions on the decoder. Most people don't need to change any of that either. But if you ran into an instance where you did, you could do it under the light function. Now let's take a look at analog controls, if I can get it out of my mouth. As we can see here, the analog controls page is extremely complicated. We have one little thing to do here. Turn it on or turn it off. We could do that from the basic page as well, so I'm not sure why that's replicated on the analog control page. I think it's simply because people who go in there and don't know that it's on basic can go to analog controls and turn analog control on or off. It's the only two functions you have there. Okay, and I leave mine on. Consist. All of this advanced consist information, and the consist button is there, by the way. I do not know what all this means either, but it's how the locomotives that are consisted act together. I really don't know anything about the function of all this stuff here. It's another thing that you would have to investigate to see whether it would be something you would have to change or would like to change in the way that you consist your trains together through your throttle. I'm not going to go into it, but this is what's on the page. So we're going to go to advanced, and obviously that's going to be way above my pay grade. Okay, here's advanced. When I get to advanced, and I think it's over my pay grade, it allows us, it's another very busy page that allows us one thing to do, and that is turn on or off Digitrax transponding. So if you're using transponders on your layout to know where the locomotive is located for computer purposes or something, you would obviously, if the decoder had a transponding function, you would turn it on right there, and it is the only function under advanced tab on this particular decoder. Now on other decoders, I might point out, we may have more information on some of these pages. We're strictly dealing with a Digitrax decoder here. Now we're going to go to sound, which we don't have any on this particular decoder. So you see that this tab is empty because there is no options in this category and they are not found in this tab. That's because this is a non-sound decoder. If we had a sound decoder here, you would be able to make selections on what you wanted the decoder to do, and you could certainly search those out when you put your sound decoder on your programming track. Now we're going to go to sound levels. I'll give you 3 guesses. What do you think we're going to see there? Wow, what a no-brainer. Look at that. The same thing, because this is not a sound decoder. Okay, but sound levels, when you do pull up a sound decoder, and I don't want to go out and get one, and I only have one locomotive that's sound equipped, and it's a jet, so it's kind of ridiculous to look at. But nevertheless, I'm not going to do that. But if this was a sound page, there would be all kinds of options for the volume on your bell, your whistle, your station announcement. All that stuff would be on here, and it would have a slide bar that would allow you to adjust how loud those particular sounds would be. So that's just an overview of the sound level page. Now we're going to go to the next, which is CVs. Okay, if I hit CVs, what this does is it brings up every CV in this decoder, and it tells you in the yellow column what that CV is set at. The unfortunate part here is, unless you're a CV guru, I don't know what any of those CVs control. Okay? So getting in here and messing around, you're flirting with danger, in my opinion. Unless you know something about CV numbers. If you do, you could go in here and make quick changes to the value of those decoders in this yellow box. So if I went in here, I could change that to 5. I could write it right here. I don't have to go down to the bottom and write to sheet. I could write it right here, and then I could compare it to what I had before, I believe. I don't know. I'm not going to mess with this because I don't want to screw up my decoder. But what I'm saying is you can change individual CVs here one at a time if that's the way you choose to do it. I don't know why you would do it here, simply because the tabs up on top allow you to make changes to those CVs without you even caring what those CV numbers are. But for the gurus who know what the CV numbers are, this may be something that you want to do. Okay? So it allows you to individually change individual CVs if you know what you're doing. I would recommend not doing anything on this page if you do not know what you're doing. And you notice that we've got a couple more, we've got a compare full sheet down here. I don't know what other buttons here are new. Read changes on sheet. I don't know. But anyway, I don't mess with this sheet once again, but it does allow you to change individual CVs, which is just something that JMRI allows you to do. Now because it's a Digitrax decoder, we have a Digitrax tab, if I can get that out as well. And all that tells us is advanced consist droop compensation for speed stabilization. What the hell does that mean? I don't know. I don't mess with it. Speed compensation control, F5 has no effect on speed compensation, or you can change that to F5 on disables speed compensation. I do not know what all this is. Split field motor, I don't know what that means. I don't know. Oh, a split field AC motor, I guess if you were running this on Lionel, if you had a Lionel decoder. I don't know. But here again, I don't know what all this junk means, so I don't mess with it. I don't want to go this far. But what I'm pointing out here is you can go this far. Okay, and last of all, what we need to cover is if you screw everything up in here and you're on the correct decoder that you have in the locomotive, we can go right up here to this handy little function that says reset, factory reset. Then it comes down here in the middle of the screen. This is factory resets. It says reset all CVs. If you totally screw up a decoder or you have a locomotive that doesn't run, this is what I would recommend doing first. If you screw it all up within this program, this is what I would recommend doing last. But in any event, if the locomotive doesn't respond, doesn't do anything, go to the correct decoder. You do have to know the correct decoder type. But when you're there, you just click OK, and it starts sending the info to the programming track and resets everything on the locomotive back to the factory settings that are contained within the program here. Okay, gang, I'm hoping that that explanation helped you out a little bit. I know that the videography is not very good in this little bitty room that I have all this in, but I hope in some way it helped you guys out on getting set up with a separate programming track. And as usual, thanks for watching.